Tell us your name and tell us about your project.
My name is Sir Arthur Eddington, and my project is to perform the first experimental test of Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. In 1915, Einstein published 4 groundbreaking papers that introduced his theory of general relativity. But at the time, the German-born theoretical physicist was hardly known to the public, and members of the science community were fighting his new theory head-on.
What were you guys trying to do or find?
While Newton's law of universal gravity provided extremely accurate explanations of physical observations, Einstein had issues with Newton's theory. It did not match his special theory of relativity, which predicted that space and time are relative. He believed gravitational fields would cause warps in space-time. I'm going to find out which is the case using the solar eclipse. This will determine if Einstein is indeed correct or not. The period of totality was right around 6 minutes, being the longest of the 20th century. This was ample time for astronomers to measure the relative location of stars in the Hyades cluster that was usefully located near the solar limb at that time.
Where did the project or experiment occur?
I did my part of the experiment on a remote island of Principe in the Gulf of Guinea, off the west coast of Africa. The eclipse occurred in the southern hemisphere. I also had some scientists in Brazil recording data for the experiment as well. I thought they might be able to get an angle that I couldn't.
What other significant events were happening around the world at this time?
Well, World War I had just ended, and peace treaty committees were in conference to settle everything. The daylight saving time had passed in U.S. Congress. Many other countries would follow the U.S. and do it as well. Also occurring during this time was the invention of the rotary dial telephone, and the United States Post Office began its first regular airmail service.
Who else was involved in the project?
Well, Sir Frank Watson Dyson, a British astronomer, came up with the plan in 1917 to resolve this issue. He knew a total eclipse would occur on May 29, 1919, and realized that the light from the stars would have to pass through the sun's gravitational field on its way to Earth. I also had some help getting the site set up and preparing everything. There was also the team of guys from the Royal Astronomical Society that went to Brazil and worked alongside me.
And what was your role in the project?
I led the experiment. I started by first measuring the true position of the stars during January and February of 1919. Then I measured the stars' position during the eclipse. I saw through the sun's gravitational lens. My number one job was to get the photographs from the eclipse. I also sent astronomers to take measurements from Brazil and collect the same photos.
What impact did your project have on the physics community?
Well, I announced my findings on November 6, 1919. Einstein was indeed correct. The next morning, Einstein, until then a relatively obscure newcomer in theoretical physics, was on the front page of every major newspaper around the world. The bending of light around massive objects is now known as gravitational lensing and is an important tool in astrophysics. Physicists now use the gravitational lensing to try to understand dark matter and the expansion of the universe. This accomplishment would give hope that the war was over as well, because the two men collaborating with each other were from different parts of the world. Einstein went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Did the project go as planned for you and your team?
Before the experiment took place, it rained for 19 days and was really cloudy. I never thought I would get this project done successfully. I prayed continually for things to clear up, and on the day of the eclipse it was still raining with no hopes of clouds in disperse. Then with 10 seconds left in the eclipse, the clouds split and I was able to get pictures. This was what I needed to prove that the sun did deflect the light. The Brazil team had some trouble with the high heat of the jungle warping the metal in the telescope. Luckily, they brought another smaller telescope to use for the eclipse. The project was a success in the end. We were able to put an end to the confusion between two great scientists.